So it was victory number 83 for Lewis Hamilton at the Mexican Grand Prix, but not after a few scares on the opening lap of the race. Vettel didn't leave him enough room and he ended up with a wheel on the grass, and then obviously down at turn 1 and 2 there was contact with Verstappen, which properly put him on the grass and he dropped behind Albon. But with Albon making an early stop and Leclerc covering that by stopping a lap later, it meant it was Vettel and Hamilton out front, and Hamilton slowly closed the gap on Vettel in the first stint, and then Mercedes triggered the undercut. And that was what won them the race, because Hamilton's outlap was mighty. Ferrari couldn't cover it off, so they had to go long. And with Hamilton managing his tyres perfectly despite a damaged floor, he got the job done to take yet another win this year. If you've been following Hamilton's career since the start, you know tyre management was a big weakness of his in the first few years of his career, but he's improved that so much now, and it's almost a strength at this stage. His greatness can sometimes be taken for granted, but it was another great win for him and his team. He just needs 4 points this weekend now to seal the title, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, he really should do that, and he'll move within one title of the great Michael Schumacher. It was another bad day for the Ferrari pit wall, as the strategy for both drivers was a disaster. For some reason, Ferrari decided to cover Alex Albon's pit stop with Charles Leclerc, and it really didn't pay off, as it took the Monegasque driver out of victory contention and had to settle for 4th place in the end. As for Sebastian Vettel, well, really, Ferrari should have pitted him before Hamilton and put him on the hard tyres, and he probably would have been able to control the race from there, but instead they left themselves open to the undercut from Mercedes, and Mercedes took it and took full advantage of it too by winning the race. It was a terrible decision by Ferrari not to pit Vettel first, because with Hamilton less than 2 seconds behind before his stop, the undercut was always a danger. Ferrari strategies have been a problem for a number of years now, and you would have thought by this stage they would have made changes, but still Inaki Rueda stays as head of strategy at Ferrari. It really is mind-boggling at this stage with the amount of errors he and his strategy team have made over the last 4 seasons and the victories that they've cost Ferrari. After a heavy impact with the barriers at the end of Q3, Valtteri Bottas drove a really solid and good race to finish 3rd and end up on the podium to keep his very slim championship hopes alive. Alex Albon continued his solid run of results with a very nice 5th place, and if it was a better strategy from Red Bull, maybe he could have got a podium. For once, Red Bull were actually weak on strategy, and it was a rare off day for them. But Albon was very solid, and like his teammate, kept it clean and deservedly finished in the top 5. He's already done a far better job than Pierre Gasly did in the Red Bull, and surely he will be kept on by them for 2020. This was Max Verstappen's race to lose, and he went and lost it. It looked like he'd finally taken pole in Mexico after just missing out in 2017 and 2018, but he was rightly awarded the penalty after failing to lift while passing the crashed car of Valtteri Bottas. It was silly because Max was comfortably on pole and deserved the pole position for a fantastic qualifying performance, and then his comments in the press conference really didn't help him either. It was immature stuff from the Dutchman. Even from 4th place at the start, I thought myself that he would win the race, but it all went wrong in the first 4 laps. It was more a clumsy racing incident with Hamilton at the start, in my opinion, but then the dive bomb on Bottas in lap 4 in the stadium section, while people might call it a spectacular move, it was quite silly because he would have had the DRS on the long straight, and Bottas was going to pass him back anyway, puncture or no puncture, but he got a puncture in the end because there was a little bit of contact from Bottas's front wing end fence with his right rear tyre, and he had a puncture which ended any hope of victory. He did recover the 6th, but he really threw away a likely win there. Max has been comfortably one of the star drivers this season, and let's hope this is just a blip for him and not some return to the bad old days of pre-Monaco 2018. Behind the top 3 teams, Sergio Perez was outstanding once again in his racing point. The Mexican, in front of his home fans, delivered a great performance. He started 11th and perfected the medium-hard tyre strategy perfectly and held off Daniel Ricciardo in the closing stages to be best of the rest. I feel like Perez is probably the most underrated driver in the grid. Yes, he's been involved in incidents in the past, but his speed on Sundays is very impressive and his tyre management is superb. Hopefully one day he gets the credit he deserves for these performances, because he does not belong in the top 10 in the championship with that car. He is outperforming it, in my opinion. Daniel Ricciardo did a great first stint on the hards and went a long way into the race and managed to get 8th place. He'd be disappointed not to have passed Perez, but still it was decent points after this disqualification to Japan. Then behind him, it was a tight fight between Kvyat and Hulkenberg, and Kvyat deservedly getting a penalty and losing points for putting Hulkenberg in the wall basically on the last lap. Pierre Gasly obviously wasn't 100% with his illness over the weekend, but managed to finish ninth in the end thanks to the late drama between his teammate and Hulkenberg. So his solid performances since he returned to Toro Rosso continue, and he seems to be far more comfortable in that car. McLaren really have made the biggest gains this season to lie fourth in the Constructors' Championship, and they should stay there, but Mexico was a bit of a nightmare for them. Carlos Sainz had no pace on the hard tyre and dropped back through the field to end up 13th, which was very disappointing after a strong qualifying performance from the Spaniard once again. And Lando Norris, of course, well, he was having a very solid race too until his first pit stop, which was a disaster with the loose wheel, and that just ended his hopes of any points in the race. But McLaren will hope to bounce back this weekend and stamp their authority on the midfield battle again. As for Alfa Romeo, Haas and Williams, they're just waiting for the season to end really. It's really gone south for Alfa after the summer break, and Haas's problems just continue, and while Williams are so far off, it's really bad for them and their fans. Anyway, who's your star of the Mexican Grand Prix? Let me know in the comments below. Goodbye.